In 2026, the crown, resting upon Queen Camilla's head, has never felt heavier or more solitary. The sharp, precise chess moves executed by Prince William have proven a ruthless truth of power. The past never truly sleeps, and the profound wounds inflicted upon Princess Diana years ago are being avenged piece by her eldest son, Mrs. Annabel Elliot was far from just a well-known interior designer within high society. To the Prince of Wales, this woman represented a dark chapter in his family's history, courting back to the 1980s and 1990s, while Princess Diana was enduring deep isolation and depression within the cold walls of Kensington Palace. Annabel Elliot's private residence in Dorset served as the secure haven where Prince Charles and Camilla conducted their illicit affair. In 2005, immediately following the marriage of Charles and Camilla, Annabel was strategically placed as the chief interior designer for the Duchy of Cornwall, a billion-dollar estate under the direct control of the royal heir. For nearly 2 decades, a steady stream of public and private royal funds flowed into Annabel's design firm through lucrative contracts to refurbish luxury estates and premium holiday cottages across Cornwall and Wales. She naturally occupied honorary seats at Wimbledon and appeared prominently in BBC royal documentaries. However, in September 2022, the moment Queen Elizabeth II passed away and Charles ascended the throne, William immediately took control of the Duchy of Cornwall. During his very first briefing with senior aides, while reviewing the payroll registry, the Prince of Wales stopped coldly at the name of Annabel Elliot. With a chillingly calm demeanour, he uttered a single, brief sentence. "I will deal with this case myself." There were no loud arguments, nor was there any official press release honouring her 20-year contribution to the estate as royal protocol usually dictated. William simply allowed the active contracts to expire naturally and refused to authorise any new payments to the Queen's younger sister. The definitive strike was completed when the 2024 Duchy of Cornwall annual financial report was made public. Under the line item for the design services of Annabel Elliot, the world saw only a single word: NIL. To the untrained eye, the publication of the annual Duchy of Cornwall financial accounts is a mundane administrative exercise. To those who understand the unspoken language of royal power, it was a declaration of war. William, acting with the absolute authority of the Duke of Cornwall, officially cut off Annabel Elliot, the younger sister of Queen Camilla, from the royal payroll. For nearly 20 years, Mrs. Elliot had quietly collected vast sums of royal money under the guise of providing interior design services for the billion-dollar estate. By reducing her remuneration to zero without a word of public gratitude, a formal farewell, or the traditional press release honouring decades of service, William did something far more profound than balancing a ledger. He targeted the very core of Camilla's trusted inner circle, proving that the ghosts of the past have not been forgotten, and that the modern House of Windsor is undergoing a calculated purification process. To fully grasp the sheer ruthlessness of William's financial strike, one must examine the deep historical roots of the woman he so effortlessly erased from the palace books. Annabel Elliot was not merely an employee. She was an architectural pillar of the long-standing arrangement between King Charles and Queen Camilla. Shortly after Charles married Camilla in 2005, the then Prince of Wales directly appointed his new sister-in-law as the chief interior designer for the Duchy of Cornwall. Over the next 2 decades, thousands of pounds of public and private funds flowed into her design firm as she refurbished luxury holiday cottages, regional offices, and grand manor houses across Cornwall, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. She became a permanent fixture in the royal box at Wimbledon, a prominent face in official palace documentaries, and an influential tastemaker deeply woven into the fabric of high society. However, for Prince William, Annabel Elliot represented something far darker than an expensive decorator. She was the woman who had opened her doors and looked away politely, while a young Princess Diana was sinking into severe emotional distress. During the height of the illicit affair in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Annabel's private country home in Dorset served as one of the primary, highly secure sanctuaries where Charles and Camilla could meet away from the prying eyes of the press and the heartbreaking realities of the Wales marriage. While William and Harry were small boys watching their mother fight an isolated battle against depression and bulimia within the cold walls of Kensington Palace, Annabel Elliot was actively facilitating the relationship that was tearing their family apart. The depth of this calculated complicity was laid bare in historical records and personal recollections, portraying a woman who did not merely tolerate the affair but aggressively protected it. There was one particularly infamous evening when Charles arrived at the Dorset estate in a fury, snapping at the staff and projecting the intense pressure of his double life onto everyone in the room. When Camilla proved unable to calm the volatile prince, it was Annabel who stepped in with chilling pragmatism. According to individuals familiar with the internal dynamics of that circle, Annabel grabbed her sister by the shoulders, looked her dead in the eyes, and assured her that Diana did not even come close to her in terms of substance or worth, before physically pushing Camilla toward the bedroom door where Charles was waiting and closing it firmly behind them. This was an act of deliberate strategy, an active choice to prioritize the happiness of her sister and the future king over the emotional survival of a vulnerable young mother. For William, this historical betrayal became entirely unpalatable when combined with modern audacity. In 2023, while still collecting substantial payments from William's estate, Annabel sat down for a high-profile BBC documentary celebrating the coronation of Charles and Camilla. Smiling warmly into the camera, she praised her sister's absolute loyalty to the king. The irony was suffocating. The very woman who had orchestrated secret rendezvous and shielded an act of profound marital infidelity was now preaching about loyalty on national television, funded by the son of the woman she had helped supplant. When William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall in September 2022, following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, he did not hesitate. Palace insiders reveal that upon reviewing the extensive payroll documentation, the prince stopped coldly at Annabel Elliot's name. Turning to his senior advisors in total calmness, he uttered a brief, unmistakable sentence: "I will deal with her." What followed was a masterclass in institutional execution. There was no room for negotiation, no graceful transition period designed to save face, and no polite statement praising her 20 years of aesthetic contributions to the estate. William's approach was defined by a terrifying administrative silence. He simply let the existing contracts expire and refused to authorize any further financial disbursements. When the 2024 financial report was compiled, the reality of her eviction was laid bare for the world to see under the cold gaze of public scrutiny. This was a purely legal, perfectly legitimate exercise of directorial authority, yet it carried a devastatingly personal message. William was effectively telling the Queen that her family's unchecked access to the wealth and prestige of the monarchy was officially at an end. The Prince of Wales operated with the supreme confidence of a man who knows that time is entirely on his side. He is no longer the defenseless 15-year-old boy, forced to walk behind his mother's coffin through the weeping streets of London, masking his internal shattering beneath a mask of royal duty. Today, he controls the purse strings of the most lucrative estate in the United Kingdom, and he is using that financial leverage to systematically dismantle the defensive wall that Camilla spent decades constructing. This opening strike has transformed the internal atmosphere of the palace into a tense, silent battlefield where every glance and every omission of protocol carries the weight of a royal decree. William's refusal to tolerate the remnants of the Camilla rehabilitation campaign has left the Queen scrambling to protect the remaining vestiges of her influence. For 30 years, the narrative presented by high society public relations operations was one of inevitable romance and dignified endurance, a story where old wounds had miraculously healed into a harmonious modern monarchy. By reducing Annabel Elliot's status to a humiliating public zero, William shattered that illusion in an instant, exposing the raw, unhealed fractures that still dictate the internal reality of the House of Windsor. The prince's actions have demonstrated to the entire court that strategic smiles and manufactured public harmony will no longer serve as a shield for those who built their fortunes on the wreckage of his mother's life. As King Charles faces the profound vulnerabilities of health crises and advanced age in 2026, the absolute authority within the institution is rapidly shifting toward the heir to the throne. William is not operating out of uncontrolled emotional volatility or unchecked paranoia. He is moving with a calculated, patient precision that has left the Queen's faction entirely defenseless. The era of comfortable compromise is officially over, and the financial erasure of Annabel Elliot is merely the first chapter in a broader, unyielding campaign to redefine the power dynamics of the British Crown before the next reign begins. The tremors caused by the financial eviction of Annabel Elliot had barely settled within the palace corridors when a second, far more unsettling fracture opened in the defensive wall Queen Camilla had constructed around her past. This time, the threat did not emerge from the calculated accounts of the Prince of Wales, but from the elegant, country-bred world of the British aristocracy itself. In February 2026, Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles made a striking public appearance at a high-profile military memorial service. Standing shoulder to shoulder with his children, Tom and Laura, and formally representing Princess Anne at the event, the 86-year-old retired officer commanded the room with an effortless, undeniable authority. To the public, it was a display of seamless aristocratic continuity. To Queen Camilla, it was a terrifying reminder that the man who holds the keys to her deepest secrets remains entirely beyond her control. For 30 years, the mainstream media had packaged the dissolution of the Parker-Bowles marriage as a tragic yet simple fairy tale of royal destiny. The public was told that Andrew was the silent, dignified victim of an unstoppable romance between Camilla and the future king. However, the whispers circulating through the ancient drawing rooms of Wiltshire and London tell a far more calculating story. Sources close to the old aristocracy reveal that Andrew did not divorce Camilla in 1995 simply because of her infidelity. He walked away after discovering a meticulously organized archive hidden within the heavy oak desk of their private estate. An archive that proved his entire life, his decorated military career, and his family name had been utilized as a strategic social passport. Inside that private drawer, there were no emotional, tear-stained love letters between two desperate lovers. Instead, Andrew reportedly found carefully curated press clippings, targeted media contacts, and detailed logistical notes mapping out public appearances and social circles. It was the workbench of a highly skilled political strategist, not the personal effects of a traditional country wife. Camilla understood the brutal rules of the palace in the 1970s perfectly. She knew the royal establishment would never accept a woman with a visible past as a bride for the heir to the throne. To maintain her position near Prince Charles, she required an ironclad shield of respectability. Marrying Andrew, a handsome, well-connected Catholic cavalry officer, provided the ultimate deception. It gave her a prestigious title, an expansive country estate, and the unquestioned right to attend the exclusive polo matches and royal gatherings where Charles would always be present. For a proud soldier, the realization that his entire marriage was a calculated stepping stone was the ultimate humiliation, turning his silent withdrawal into a powerful weapon that now threatens to unravel the carefully managed legacy of the Queen. The brilliant tactical maneuver of Andrew Parker Bowles lay not in an aggressive counterattack, but in his absolute mastery of aristocratic silence. In the unwritten code of the British upper class, the first person to cry foul to the tabloid press instantly forfeits their social standing. Andrew understood this ruthless machinery better than anyone. Had he weaponized his discovery in 1995, granting explosive television interviews or selling his story to the highest bidder, he would have degraded his own dignity, reducing himself to the pitiful caricature of a bitter, betrayed husband. Instead, by locking his mouth and discarding the key, he transformed his silence into an impenetrable fortress that neither the relentless press nor the sophisticated public relations apparatus of Buckingham Palace could ever breach. He denied the media the satisfaction of writing his final chapter, ensuring that his private torment remained entirely his own property. This strategic retreat allowed him to walk away from the wreckage of his first marriage, with his reputation completely intact, enabling him to rebuild his life, remarry within his set, and retain the unwavering respect of his military peers. Decades later, as the monarchy finds itself perpetually managing public relations crises, Andrew moves through high society events like Royal Ascot with an enviable, unforced ease. He is a truly free man, an elegant ghost from the past whose dignified presence at military and royal functions serves as a constant, silent reminder of the calculations that paved Camilla's path to the throne. While the silent spectre of her first husband continues to shadow her historical narrative, a far more immediate and aggressive front has opened against Queen Camilla within the contemporary palace walls. The long-standing, icy truce between the Queen and Prince William has completely dissolved, replaced by an overt hostility driven by William's fierce determination to protect his wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. For years, William carried his childhood scars in controlled silence, tolerating Camilla's presence for the sake of institutional stability and his father's happiness. However, palace insiders reveal that William possesses an absolute, unyielding boundary, and that boundary is the emotional well-being of Kate. When external briefings and media leaks began tracing back to operations designed to shield the wider institution at the expense of Kate's peace, William refused to remain passive. In a series of heated, behind-the-scenes confrontations, the Prince of Wales reportedly bypasses traditional court diplomacy, challenging King Charles directly over the hostile environment being cultivated around his wife. The old dynamic, where William was expected to swallow his discomfort for the greater good of the monarchy, has vanished. The simmering animosity erupted into the public eye during a major state event at Windsor Castle, a moment that royal observers immediately recognized as an unprecedented breach of public harmony. As Princess Catherine was engaging in a warm, spontaneous conversation with high-profile international guests, Queen Camilla swept past, executing a sharp, dismissive hand gesture that effectively ordered the future queen to step aside. It was a visual assertion of rank, a public relegation of Catherine to the status of an inconvenient bystander. William, watching the interaction unfold in real time, delivered an immediate and devastating response. When entering the reception room to greet the senior royals, the Prince of Wales bypassed the ironclad demands of royal protocol. He deliberately skipped the formal, deep bow of the head required when greeting a reigning queen, offering Camilla nothing more than 2 perfunctory, icy kisses on the cheek before immediately walking away to stand by his wife. In the hyper-symbolic world of the royal family, where every gesture is dissected by courtiers and foreign diplomats alike, William's refusal to bow was a thunderbolt. It was a public declaration that he does not recognize her moral authority, and that his compliance with her status is entirely conditional, signaling to the entire court that the future king views her not as a matriarch, but as a temporary occupant of a position she secured through strategy rather than love. The systemic isolation encircling Queen Camilla has rapidly expanded from the financial ledgers of the Duchy of Cornwall to the deeply personal sanctuary of her own bloodline. By late February 2026, the terrifying precision of Prince William's administrative strikes forced the Queen into a defensive maneuver that betrayed her deep sense of vulnerability. According to legal and real estate records leaked from the inner circles of the gentry, Camilla quietly executed a power of attorney document, effectively transferring the ownership of Raymill House, her deeply cherished private sanctuary in Wiltshire, directly into the names of her children, Tom and Laura. On the surface, palace officials attempted to spin the transaction as a routine lament of long-term estate planning for an aging monarch. However, the sophisticated observers of the court recognized the desperate truth behind the paperwork. Camilla had watched William erase her sister from the royal payroll with a single word, and she understood with absolute clarity that the Prince of Wales possessed both the power and the unyielding will to strip away her remaining privileges the moment King Charles closed his eyes for the last time. With senior palace officials already confirming behind closed doors that Camilla will never be permitted to occupy the grand estate of Royal Lodge or receive an open-ended financial guarantee from the Crown during a future reign, Raymill House remains her only guaranteed refuge. It is the one place where she can escape the suffocating requirements of the court and live on her own terms. By legally moving this multi-million-pound asset into her children's names before the changing of the guard occurs, she was desperately attempting to place her most personal sanctuary entirely beyond William's reach. Executing a quiet legal retreat before the future, King assumes total sovereign authority over the family estates. Yet, this frantic effort to secure her physical legacy has done nothing to alleviate the profound emotional chill settling over her domestic life. The defensive walls she is building are not only separating her from her royal adversaries, but they are also alienating the very family she is trying to protect. The depth of this domestic estrangement became undeniably clear during the winter of 2025. In the weeks leading up to December, a desperate Queen Camilla personally telephoned her son, Tom Parker Bowles, practically begging him and his sister, Laura, to bring their families to Sandringham to spend the traditional Christmas holidays by her side. She lamented that the heavy burdens of her official role had prevented them from sharing an authentic, uninterrupted family holiday in years. The answer she received from her own children was a devastating public rejection. Both Tom and Laura refused the royal invitation, choosing instead to spend their holidays entirely elsewhere, far removed from the tense atmosphere and the watchful eyes of the Norfolk estate. Her children can clearly read the shifting political winds within the House of Windsor. They can sense the quiet, unyielding wrath of Prince William moving through the palace, and they are actively choosing to reposition themselves, stepping away from their mother's royal orbit before the final collapse of her influence arrives. They understand that while Camilla spent her entire life playing a high-stakes game of societal chess to capture the crown, she has ultimately left her descendants exposed to the cold reality of an unforgiving future monarch, leaving them to navigate the dangerous transition between reigns entirely on their own. In the current landscape of the year 2026, the golden crown resting upon Queen Camilla's head has never felt more heavy or remarkably solitary. The grand illusions carefully manufactured by the palace public relations machinery have completely dissolved under the weight of an unyielding timeline of institutional execution. When looking back at the strategic trajectory of the last 4 years, the shifting of power away from the Queen becomes undeniably clear. The opening movement occurred in September 2022, the precise moment King Charles ascended the throne, which allowed Prince William to inherit the massive Duchy of Cornwall estate and immediately mark Annabel Elliot for financial eviction. Throughout the year 2023, while Camilla's faction attempted to utilize a high-profile BBC coronation documentary to paint an image of unassailable loyalty, William was already quietly putting the administrative wheels in motion. The definitive proof of this shift arrived with the publication of the 2024 financial report, where the single word nil exposed the total erasure of her sister's royal income to the public gaze. This silent structural warfare rapidly escalated into overt defiance by September 2025 during the state visit at Windsor Castle, when Camilla's dismissive gesture toward the Princess of Wales prompted William to openly break centuries of royal protocol by withholding his formal bow of the head. The profound isolation surrounding the Queen soon reached her own bloodline by December 2025, when both Tom and Laura took the unprecedented step of refusing her holiday invitation to Sandringham, deliberately choosing to distance themselves from the looming shadow of the future king. This sequence of defeats culminated in the frantic events of February 2026, when the powerful public re-emergence of Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles ignited widespread whispers regarding his private Wiltshire dossiers, driving a panicked Camilla to legally sign away the ownership of Ray Mill House to her children as a desperate last resort to protect her only remaining sanctuary from William's inevitable reach. The ultimate tragedy for the reigning queen is that after spending her entire adult life navigating the hazardous undercurrents of palace politics to capture the supreme title, she remains completely eclipsed by the genuine adoration flowing toward the next generation. Princess Catherine inspires the type of organic, unconditional public devotion that no amount of sophisticated palace strategy can ever purchase. The court machinery has worked tirelessly, even modifying her official title from Queen Consort to the simpler designation of Queen to force an aura of legitimacy. Yet her public appearances remain rigidly orchestrated affairs, entirely lacking the authentic warmth that follows the Princess of Wales. Camilla has mastered the complex mechanics of the institution only to become its ultimate prisoner, forced to perform a tightly scripted role under the judgmental glare of a world that refuses to forget. In stark contrast, Andrew Parker Bowles moves through high society with the absolute freedom of a gentleman who kept his honor intact, proving that a quiet life in the country is infinitely more peaceful than a palace built on compromise. Prince William's methodical chess match has delivered a definitive lesson to the court, demonstrating that the past is a living force within the modern monarchy. The boy who walked behind his mother's coffin has transformed into the most formidable strategist in Great Britain, utilizing the cold language of financial accounts and absolute institutional isolation to ensure that a crown secured through calculation becomes nothing more than a magnificent, lifelong cage.